And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Geek Out and its brother, Pop Culture Party, which is also Geek Out. They're basically part of the Geek Out brand, and there are more in this series coming. They're pretty much all the same thing, just different categories. This is a trivia-style game in which you want to know more about a subject than someone else. Can you name more Justice League members than I can? You probably can. Can you name more X-Men than I can? There's no way that you can do that. So it's kind of like that as you play. Let me show you how it works, and then we'll be back. Okay, so you can play with just one of these sets. They basically play the same way, or you could play with both. So I could say, okay, I'm going to draw a card from the Geek Out, or I'm going to draw a card from the Geek Out Pop Culture Party. So when it's your turn, someone else will draw the card. So let's say they draw the Geek Out card here. They will be looking at it, and then you're going to roll a die. So let's say, for example, I roll and I get a blue. So I have to now name 6 anthropomorphic comic book characters. Or if I had rolled the red, 4 tabletop games which fruit appears. That one I could easily do. 2 franchises featuring a mad scientist. That would be pretty easy to do. And each category is a different type. So for example, in this one here, the red category is games, the blue is comics, yellow is sci-fi, green is fantasy, and black is miscellaneous. If you roll a blank side on the die, then you can pick which category, but again, you're doing so without seeing it. So let's say, let's do the 4 tabletop games which fruit appears. Now I know I can do 4 tabletop games which fruit appears. That's pretty simple. So I say, okay, I can do 4. Well, then play passes on to Sam, who says, oh, I can do 5. If he can't think of more than 5, then he has to pull out. Well, he can bluff. So let's say he only knows 2. He could still say 5. The next person says 7. The next person says 8. It comes back to me. I pass, and we keep going. And so let's say it goes back to the person who has 8. That person then must list 8 tabletop games which fruit appears, which is going to be maybe more difficult. I could say, well, I know it appears in Finca, and I know that there's fruit in the Adam and Eva game because it shows little apples. And yeah, okay, I'm already running out of it. Apples to apples. Fruit appears in that. And so you can keep going. And I'm not going to show my lack of knowledge here by naming any more. So you go through these, and then people can argue and say, no, that doesn't count. Yeah, there was a tiny little apple on a card, but that doesn't count. People can argue back and forth. And I think I can say with very strong success that your group is going to argue. Definitely. Now, if you succeed when you get these numbers and you say it, you get the card, which is worth 1 point. If you don't, you get one of these tokens here, which is worth -2 points. And you keep going until one player gets 5 points. That person is the winner. Let me show you one of the Pop Culture Party cards. Here, the categories are going to be different. In the Pop Culture category, the red is movies, the blue is television, yellow literature, green music, and black miscellaneous. So, like, for example, 4 cola brands. Well, maybe you could say, oh, that's easy. I know Coke and Pepsi and Jolt and RC and Walmart, Sam's, or whatever, you know, the cola brands you are. But again, they're going to focus on different things. You'll notice that these, pretty much anybody can play these as long as you have some sort of pop culture knowledge. Do you know 2 titles by James Patterson? Do you even know who James Patterson is? Do you know 4 shows with regular beach scenes? Do you even watch TV at all? While the Geek Out stuff is going to have things like fictional pirates or games that have been turned into cartoons or 2 fictional diseases. That's a great one. And so you just go back and forth until one person gets 5. You can play on teams. You know, so let's say they recommend that there's 8 or more people. You can play with teams. They have some very specific things, like when you're naming movies. Let's say it says name a sci-fi time-traveling movie. You're not allowed to say Back to the Future 1, Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3. You can only name one of a franchise when picking movies or books or whatever. But other than that, it's kind of pretty free form as to how the rules go. Now, Geek Out is a party game. And so we have to give party games some leeway sometimes because they don't need super rigid rule structures. But this one does have some problems. And the biggest problem is that when you have negative points, you have nothing to lose. You're like, well, I'm at negative 4 points or whatever. What does it matter? I'm just going to say a big number. I don't care if I lose. And one person can realistically ruin the game for other people. Of course, you shouldn't play that person anyway, but you can also fall into a spot where one person happens to know more than everybody else, and so they just keep saying a higher number than everybody else, and they keep going. And they get to go all the time. See, the game isn't fun if you're not going, but if you never win a bid, you don't ever get to play, and that's where I think the game is problematic. I think the same game could have been done with a different thing as you get a category. It's your category, and then you see how many you can do in that category where they say 4, and you say, well, I think I can do 6, and I'll get some extra points if I go above the number that they said. In that way, everybody gets to participate. But in this game, it's very possible that you can play it and never actually play, which isn't very fun. Because in the Geek Out version, you're probably going to have somebody in your group who's a bigger geek than you. And if not, well then, you're the problem. If you're playing the pop culture one, there's probably someone who knows all that pop culture stuff. Now, yes, they have different categories and things, but still it works out sometimes that one person just doesn't know as much as everybody else, which there's no shame in, because this stuff only matters if you're on Jeopardy or playing this game. So they're not actually playing the game. Then there's the arguments. And I don't mind arguments, but man, they come up in this game all the time. That's not actually a science fiction time traveling. It wasn't really time traveling. And while those arguments can be completely entertaining and fun at points, at other times they can be exhausting and annoying and like, come on, let's go on with the game. So I enjoyed playing this, but I enjoyed it almost more of an activity. I think I'd rather have these cards here and say, okay, I'm going to pull one out. Can you do it? Can you name 2 disco performers? Can you name 6 stand-up comedians? Can you name 6 mystery titles or whatever, rather than going around until someone bids an outrageous number that they can't do. And then there's the whole time limit. The rules tell you can make a certain number of time limit, but really when someone's picking, they're going, okay, wait, give me a little bit more time. I don't know. It's an interesting idea, and I know people have fun with it, and I thought it was okay, but for the most part, this fell as a dud with most people because it's just not tight enough to keep that fun that party games should have. Dice Tower Judgment, problematic.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut